From the tables turning on a star-studded team to a string of bench-warming injuries, experts are saying that Ben Simmons is done in the NBA. And here's why. The Brooklyn Nets recently traded two of their star players, and the black hole they've left in their wake has turned the focus on 26-year-old Ben Simmons. The Australian player was supposed to be a saving grace for the team back when James Harden was traded for him, but now he seems more like a weight, dragging the Nets down. With the recent nosedive of his on-court performance and massive bloated salary, it's hard to make a case that the former All-Star isn't on his way out. It's difficult to think of a team that's had such an insane and unfortunate change of fortune in such a short period of time as the Brooklyn Nets. To understand, we've got to take it back to 2019. In July of that year, the Nets signed Kyrie Irving and acquired Kevin Durant via a sign-and-trade deal with the Warriors. We're talking about two of the biggest talents and biggest names in the NBA. Expectations were high, as they should have been. In January of 2021, the Nets go on to acquire another huge NBA star, James Harden, forming a big three with Irving and Durant. And the Nets must have thought it would be worth it, because they traded 4 players, 3 first-round picks, and 4 pick swaps to acquire Harden and form this potential super team. I mean, it seemed like a championship ring was just around the corner. Unfortunately, things didn't quite play out that way. Due to various injuries and controversies surrounding the 3 players, they only ended up playing a total of 16 games together, and the Brooklyn Nets were kicked out by the Bucks in the 2021 NBA Championship, despite paying such a high price for Harden. Almost exactly a year later in February of 2022, the big 3 that never materialized was disbanded, as James was traded to the Philadelphia 76ers for 3 players, including Ben Simmons, and 2 first-round picks. James cited behind-the-scenes issues as his reason for leaving, and his abrupt departure left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. If Simmons was expected to take Harden's place alongside Irving and Durant, then the Nets were wrong. Simmons was carried by the older players when they appeared together, and he failed to show out if they were absent. Now, fast forward to February 2023, and the massive failure that was the Big 3 era of the Brooklyn Nets is finally over. Both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving left the team in devastating fashion. Durant headed over to the Phoenix Suns, and Irving made his way to the Dallas Mavericks. In the span of 13 months, the Nets went from one of the strongest contenders in the league to a group desperately in need of a radical rebuild. Oh, how the tables turn. Well, now you can see the precarious position that the Nets are in. Which brings us back to our young point guard, Ben Simmons. Simmons was a consensus first-team All-American player and the USBWA Freshman of the Year when he played college basketball for the LSU Tigers. He was selected first overall pick of the 2016 NBA Draft by the Philadelphia 76ers, and though he sat out his first season due to an injury, he came into the league with a vengeance, earning himself the Rookie of the Year award in 2018. Simmons was also selected 3 times to play in the NBA All-Star Game. Standing at 6 foot 10 inches tall, the youngster cuts a formidable figure. He impressed fans with his almost supernatural athletic ability and his willingness to pass the ball. By all accounts, Simmons was set to become an NBA superstar. However, the second act of his story with the Philadelphia 76ers didn't quite play out how fans or analysts expected. In the 2021 NBA playoffs, Simmons came under fire for his abysmal shooting and lack of aggression in his offense. In fact, Ben set the record for the worst postseason free throw shooter in history, only making 34.2% of the 67 shots he attempted. Simmons didn't attempt a single shot in the final quarter of 5 out of 7 games, probably because he was afraid he wouldn't make them. Fans and analysts alike were quick to notice the flaws in his game. Even his teammates hinted that his lack of aggression might have cost them the championship. Well, understandably, Simmons didn't appreciate all of this criticism, and what ensued was a messy holdout, including his salary being withheld, game suspensions, and Simmons citing mental health issues. As I mentioned earlier, in February of 2022, Simmons was traded to the Brooklyn Nets, but he wouldn't get a chance to play until October due to a back injury that eventually required surgery. Even when he has been able to return to the court, Simmons seemed like a shell of his former self. His performance has deteriorated so badly that he's gone from averaging 11.3 drives and 11.2 field goal attempts per 36 minutes in his last season with the Sixers to now averaging 4.8 and 7.2 respectively. Despite the time that's passed since his abysmal performance in the 21 NBA Finals, he doesn't seem to have worked on his game at all. When the late Kobe Bryant was asked for his opinion on Ben in 2019, he put it quite simply, well, he gotta get a jump shot. Listen, it sounds humorous and all that, but I'm dead-ass serious. It seems that the Black Mamba's advice fell on deaf ears, as we've literally seen no improvement in Simmons' game over the past few years. Due to his questionable performance and style, the Brooklyn Nets seem to be struggling to build a team around what should be their star player. Coach Jacques Vaughn has all but said outright that they're struggling to pair Ben with appropriate teammates, saying, you put another big next to Ben, then you gotta figure out what the spacing is around him. Then if you put another player next to him, then you gotta figure out what Ben looks like without the basketball. Then if you go small with Ben, then you have to figure out, can you rebound enough with him? This explains Jacques' recent resolve to keep Ben on the bench. All this combined with Simmons' dodgy knee and unreliable back paints a bleak picture of the former All-Star's prospects for getting to play in another game this season. Now, considering that he's barely played this past season and barely saw the court the one before with the Sixers, Ben's been making an absolute fortune doing pretty much close to nothing. But sometimes it's better to be a little underpaid. The 26-year-old is under contract for another 2 seasons after this, and is slated to make $77.9 million over that period. Considering this hefty sum and Simmons' lackluster track record, even if the Nets try to get rid of him, they're unlikely to find any trade suitors until his contract expires. All in all, it looks like Ben Simmons has dug himself a deep hole. How could a former Rookie of the Year and 3-time NBA All-Star manage to fall so far from grace? If Simmons is able to turn his performance around, who knows? His career might catch a second wind. But if he carries on the way he's going, with a team that can't play him but has to pay him such a fortune, the only way seems to be out the door for the young player. So there you have it, folks. From a series of messy trades for the Brooklyn Nets to a laundry list of injuries that have kept him out of the game. That's why experts say Ben Simmons is done in the NBA.